one of the things I suggest for managing the whole online dating thing is don't go on for an hour. Like that's just ludicrous. Like you're only looking for one person. Most of us
Mhm.
only looking for one person, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to go through 300 people, see one and be bummed out about it, like that's not good for you. So
Right.
set a timer. Go on for like 5 to maybe
That's
15
what I do.
minutes. Yeah, yeah, just set
Yeah.
a timer. And I say only go on when you're already in a really positive mindset.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Ask a Sex Therapist. I am here with a special guest, and we are excited to bring you a fun topic, especially for the single people. So today's guest is Allison Jayne. Allison is a seasoned psychotherapist, EFT practitioner, and best-selling author. After experiencing a divorce herself, Allison decided to focus on helping other midlife women find healthy, available single men. I know so many people are going to be loving this already, who will love and adore them. She works using a powerful tool called EFT tapping to have women clear all blocks to successful dating and open up to the excitement of falling in love again. Her recently published book, Find Love Again, Learn to Date Like a Goddess, is a guide to igniting your inner goddess and finding the man of your dreams. So welcome, Allison. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we mentioned a few topics that we might get into, and one of the ones that stuck out to me just because it's a huge pet peeve for everybody, and I've also heard recently that it's only on the rise, is getting ghosted. So, I know that so many women, people of all genders really, get into, dating apps, especially, I think is where I hear the most gripes. um, but, the ghosted. And, I even have a friend who's been dating someone for a few months and he's been like kind of doing a disappearing act recently. So, what is kind of your experience with that? And what is your advice for people trying to manage that?
Yeah. So I think it is such a problem these days
Yeah.
because of online dating, because of texting as a primary form of communication. So
Mm,
it's really easy for people to ghost now, rather than deal with a hard conversation and have possible uncomfortable feelings. I feel like part of what's happened is we are in a society now where people really don't sit with their own discomfort and they just avoid
100%.
discomfort. And it's
Yeah.
so easy, right? Because we can just communicate, via texting.
Yeah. Right. I don't like to be in my discomfort either.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Because I'm sure you don't either. It's like I know how important it is, so I do
Right,
it.
right,
But,
right, right,
you and I are trained professional therapists who have been at this for a while. So,
right, right. And we know we have to, but exactly. No,
right.
I mean, honestly, recently my son like sent me this text and he was like, "Mom, can you look this over and tell me what you think? I'm trying to be as kind as possible." And I'm like, "You're
Oh.
breaking up with your girlfriend of almost 2 years over text?
Oh,
No,
oh.
no."
Yeah, of over 2 years, that is a key
Yeah,
factor. It's
yeah,
like if it's
yeah.
like a date or 2, that's one
Right,
thing, but
right,
yeah.
right, exactly. So I was like, "No, no, no. You need
Okay.
to, pick up the phone
Yeah.
and have that uncomfortable conversation." And
Yeah.
so I think that's why people ghost, right? Is because they just don't wanna have that comfortable conversation. A
Mhm.
lot of men say, "Oh, I can't take it when a woman cries,"
That's so true.
because it turns it taps into their own sort of repressed, feelings of sadness that they
Yeah.
feel unsafe to express.
Okay, that makes some
So,
sense.
right? So I
Yeah.
think that is so when someone ghosts, I think the problem that happens for the ghostee is that
Mhm.
they take it personal.
Yes.
And it's really not personal.
Mhm.
As hard as that might be to accept and to feel, but it's really not personal. It's about the other person.
Right.
It's about their fear of having that difficult conversation. It is
Mhm.
maybe about their fear of commitment.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
might be their own avoidant attachment style getting reared up, that they are,
Right.
having to bail and they don't have the emotional bandwidth or capacity to have a difficult conversation.
Yeah. I
And
love
so
what you're saying. I mean, I think that even people who aren't single can, just reflect on some of their past experiences differently and do some healing and moving on when they like reframe it for themselves in this way.
Right, exactly. And if you think about it, if someone doesn't have the emotional bandwidth to have a difficult conversation with you, you don't want to be in a relationship with that person.
100%. Absolutely. Like they did you a favor on that level. It still can hurt when I think one of the hardest things is like you have this vision for the future, right? And it's like the loss of that vision for the future that you had and like sitting in the unknown
Exactly.
and, not knowing how to move forward and kind of just being with that. So I
Right.
don't know. Like, is that
Right.
something tapping can help with? Or like, what do you suggest?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the things, one of the big things I talk about when it comes to ghosting is that idea of sort of like future tripping, right? So
Yeah.
you can kind of almost like fall in love with a profile, you know, in
Oh,
the online
100%.
dating world. It's like, ooh, this one looks good. He's got
Yeah.
the right pictures and he says the right things and he looks like he has the right job or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and then so you're already way down the path in your mind of like,
Mhm.
oh my God, this could really be my guy. And da, da, da. And sometimes before we've even met them, you know, and I say
Yeah.
we because I have done this, I was
Mhm.
single for 8 years and I did post divorce and I did a lot
Mhm.
of this stuff. The first time I was single, there was no online dating, but
Okay.
there was. And, and I always say to people, it's like, if you were to go to a party, where there's, maybe like a charity event or something, and there's like
Mhm.
a couple hundred people, and you go and you meet someone that you find interesting and
Mhm.
you exchange numbers. You walk home and you're psyched, right? Like you're like,
Yeah.
met someone.
Yeah.
If you spend an hour swiping online and
Mhm.
you swipe through a couple hundred people and
Mhm.
you only connect with one person,
Mhm.
you're like bummed out,
Yeah, that's really interesting contextually.
right? Right?
Yeah.
So that's actually what's inherently problematic about online dating is that
Mm.
you feel like, oh my God, I just saw all these guys and I only liked one.
Mhm.
So therefore, this one is a scarce resource. And
Mm.
then you get overly attached to that one
Okay. Uh-huh.
because you're like, oh my God, he's the only one. In an hour, he was the only one. So now
Right.
I really gotta like cling on to the ideal of this guy
Right.
because otherwise there's nobody. That's what your
Right.
mind does. But you don't do that if you meet one guy at an event. Like, so it's
Yeah.
because of the medium of online dating that
Okay.
your brain goes to like this more negative, like,
It's also a good reframe though you just did. Like if you're gonna do online dating to be like, hey, if I met one person per hour and I did that a few times a week and I'm meeting a few people every week or something, like I'm getting there, you know?
right, right. Yes. And there's a lot of things that go on in our brains and with our, neurobiology that can actually impact the online dating too. And it
Oh,
does
interesting.
it correlates to the ghosting question because
Okay.
when you have a sort of a negative mindset about, "Ugh, I'm not seeing anyone, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah." Okay. The neurobiology of our brain works like this. We have a negativity bias. So we are
Mhm.
10 times more likely to attach to negative stimuli and notice and pick up on negative things over positive things.
That makes sense because we're trying to survive. We're like looking
Right.
for those threats and obstacles to
Exactly.
survival. Yeah.
Exactly. Like our ancestors, if they found like a bush filled with nice berries, like that was lovely, but it wasn't life or death. Whereas if you ignored the saber-toothed tiger stripes in the corner of your eye, you died, right?
Yeah.
So the people overly focused on the berries and the positive did not go on to procreate. They are
This
not our
this
ancestors.
explains why we're all so anxious as a society.
Totally. Totally. 100%. This is why. And
Mhm.
they've done a lot of research on it. And it's like our neural bundles for negative are really 10 times stronger and they develop 10 times faster and then they take 10 times as long to sort of shrink. You can shrink it,
Okay.
and we'll get into that
Interesting.
today.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard work. And so and then on top of that, there's a part of our brain, the reticular activating system, that is responsible for seeing and identifying patterns.
Mm.
So that's the part of our brain when you decide, okay, I'm going to buy a new car. I want to get myself a Tesla. Suddenly you see Teslas everywhere,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And you think, were those always there or not? Well, they were, but your
Right.
brain didn't see them.
Right. That makes so much sense.
So here's how it goes to online dating.
Okay.
When you go online,
Mhm.
start swiping and you're seeing like, ugh, like another guy with fish or whatever, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
your brain goes to its negativity bias. So now you're in your negative brain. So now your brain is actually going to potentially swipe by good matches for you because you're just like, and you're all like negative.
I like that. It's like a little internal pouting, like,
Right.
I don't want to look at this. I don't like
Exactly.
any of it. I'm doing it
Exactly.
anyways because I have to, or I feel like
That's
I
right.
have to. Yeah.
Right. You feel like I have to.
Yeah.
So, and then you go off, you end your session and you maybe match with one person or whatever, and then you're
Mhm.
all bummed out.
Yeah.
And then you're really negative about dating. And then even when you go with that one out with that one person, some of that negative energy might still be there or whatever.
Mm.
Or when you're starting the chat with them, some of that negative energy might be coming across very subtly. And so
Mhm.
they may actually ghost you or they may start the chat and then not follow up. Right. So much of it has to do with our internal mindset
Mhm.
before we even start dating.
Yeah.
And when you like one of the things I suggest for managing the whole online dating thing is don't go on for an hour. Like that's just ludicrous. Like you're only looking for one person, most of us.
Mhm.
Only looking for one person, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to go through 300 people, see one and be bummed out about it, like that's not good for you. So
Right.
set a timer. Go on for like 5 to
That's
maybe
that's
15
what I do.
minutes. Yeah, yeah, just set
Yeah.
a timer. And I say only go on when you're already in a really, positive mindset.
Yes.
So, I talk about using this, like, red, yellow, green light tool to just, like,
Mm.
tune into your own energy before you go on.
Okay.
So, if you're feeling red and you're
Mhm.
just feeling lonely and desperate and, "Oh my god, I wanna date for this weekend so bad,"
Yeah.
horrible time to go online.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? That's probably when most people go on.
Right. It is, but then that's when you're just gonna even get more negative, right?
Yeah, yeah, fair.
If you're feeling like green, like gotta see, like, yeah, like my life is great, and a guy would just be the cherry on the top,
Mhm.
perfect time to go on. And I promise your listeners, I promised them, if they start practicing this, they're gonna be amazed because you will all of a sudden see and match with way more guys when you go on from that
Mm.
positive place because your reticular activating system is more
Okay,
open to
okay,
options and
okay.
and then the middle one is like the yellow, like if you're feeling yellow, like you're not like negative or desperate feeling or whatever, but
Mhm.
you're not super positive either. You're just kind of like neutral or in the middle.
Mhm.
Don't go on because of a negativity bias.
Okay.
The negativity bias, you'll go
Yeah.
on and you'll quickly go to red.
Yep. That makes so much sense to me, and I actually have an episode called "The Sexual Placebo Effect." We'll link to that in the show notes too. But yeah, I really am a big believer in the law of attraction, and it's like first align with yourself. And I think that what you're saying, or the placebo effect, is all the same. It's all the same thing with different words,
Self
But
fulfilling prophecy.
it is, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
first align,
Yeah.
then go on, and so, yeah, my rule is, like, I don't push myself to do dating apps, like, if I'm in the mood, if it feels, like, kind of fun, and the second
Yes.
it stops feeling like fun, I get off.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what green light energy is. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, if it's feeling fun, if you're feeling confident,
right.
you're feeling empowered,
If you're like,
great.
"Oh, there's some good options out there. Oh, I like this. Oh, I appreciate that people are taking the
Right.
time to verify their profiles." If I can, like, have some of those little moments, or like, "Oh, there's some good-looking people out there."
Right.
That can be really helpful.
And
Um,
and the only way I figured this out was because it was happening to me. I
yeah,
literally noticed. I was like, how come sometimes I go on and I see tons of potential guys that I might want to date, and
right.
other times I go on and I see nothing. And then I
Yeah.
realized it started with me. It started with me.
100%, and I know with your program, it sounds like you work with women who date men, but it's like whether you're listening and you're a dude, because I know dudes struggle so hard
Yeah.
with online dating.
Yep.
If you're a dude, if you're a non-binary person, if you're queer, it's like the
Yep.
same concepts are going to apply,
Absolutely.
like really tune into yourself, notice when you're trying to force it. I also call it like bulldozing energy, where it's like my body's giving me a signal that this is not working, and I'm just going to force my way ahead anyways.
Right, right,
Um,
right. That does not serve. And
yeah.
actually, what gets really cool is when you start, particularly because I do use this tool, EFT tapping, which I know we're going to talk
Mhm.
about. But
Mhm.
the more you start to use things like tapping and other ways of clearing some of what's going on in the subconscious, that,
Yeah.
starting to bring the subconscious conscious, the
Yeah.
more you realize that, and the more you tune in, and suddenly when things stop working, or when you do feel like you're bulldozing, or you feel like
Yeah.
you keep hitting walls, you
Mhm.
realize, oh, wait, this is my signal to stop and drop it. And then a lot of times something really cool comes into that
I
vacuum,
love
into
that.
that space.
Okay. So what is tapping? Let's define tapping so we can get into it with people.
Sure. So EFT tapping is technically called the emotional freedom technique.
Mhm.
And it is a technique that combines tapping on one's own acupressure points with processing emotionally charged material.
Mm.
And that's an important part. A lot of people who maybe are familiar with tapping or have tried it, if you've tried it and you haven't had good results, it's
Mhm.
probably because you weren't in the emotion. So,
Okay.
yeah, so you have to be feeling your feelings for it.
Okay. That's so interesting. So it's partially reminding me, and I've done tapping and I've done EMDR. It's reminding me a little bit of the EMDR.
Yep.
And then I'm an IFS therapist, and it's
Mm,
also reminding me of parts work in a way where it's like you choose maybe an emotion that feels a little triggered. And so
yep.
that would be like, let's choose our target part for today.
Yes.
And then you use this more like, so tell us more about EFT. Like, what is it? What's the actual process of it? And we can even do some together because this will be on YouTube as well. So if people want to like follow along, we can even do some of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you just brought up about the parts work, because when we work with something in EFT, we
Mhm.
conceptualize it like, think of your problem as a tabletop. And then what are
Okay.
the legs that are holding the problem in place?
Mm.
So if we go back to ghosting, for example, right?
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
problem might be, I keep getting ghosted.
Yep. Yep.
And by the way, if I had a client at one point who got ghosted every single time, and
Wait,
I
are you
always,
really?
yeah, like she was getting ghosted by everybody. She
Oh
would
my
start
god.
a
I've gone
relationship.
on so many dates and I've only been ghosted like once or twice out of like hundreds.
Okay, here's the and this is what I said to her. I said, "Okay, this is statistically improbable."
Yeah,
And
it
so when
really is.
something statistically improbable is happening in your dating life,
Mhm.
that is a clue for you that
Yeah.
this is an internal issue that you have inside that is being mirrored to you.
Yes.
You're sort of creating that reality for yourself, right? And I know that might be harsh, and some people might kind of, wait, what? I brought this upon
It's
myself?
I mean, in a way, it's not like a blame thing. It's more
Right.
like, how can I be curious about my role in this pattern?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so if you look at it, okay, the ghosting is the tabletop. What are the legs that are holding it in place?
Mhm.
And the leg we worked on with this particular client was, she didn't feel chosen. She didn't feel worthy of being chosen.
Mm.
And so she kept engaging with guys online that were not choosers, that were commitment phobes, that had
That
their
makes
own avoidant
sense.
attachment
Right,
stuff.
they're not choosing anyone.
They're not choosing anyone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And she kept, her particular activating system was only seeing those guys. She
Mhm.
wasn't seeing the guys that actually wanted to choose her. And even if she did, that would feel threatening to her subconscious self-concept, which is, I'm not worthy of that anyway.
Right.
So when somebody has a self-concept like that, and then they have somebody interested in them, what do they think? They think, well, there must be something wrong with that person.
Mhm.
There must be something wrong with them that they're so into me so quick, or that they're choosing me, or that they want to be with me. This is all subconscious, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then what happens is, and a lot of the clients I've worked with will then kind of feel icked out, like, well, I'm not sure about this person. I'm not sure I'm that into them because they're so into me, right?
It's so true.
And if you don't feel worthy of someone being into you, then you're going to think there's something wrong with the other person.
I
So,
I
so
totally get that.
so that's like a problem that we did tapping with her on. And by the
Mhm.
way, like, we did tapping and we had her listen to subliminal messaging, basically around, I'm worthy of being chosen.
Okay.
And like, I think it was like 10 days later, she met this great guy and he's super into her and they just like fell hard and fast and they've been together for
Oh my
6, 7
God,
years.
that's so exciting.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. So
love that.
it's really a powerful testament to when you do the internal work, when you start to take
Mhm.
responsibility for those patterns, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard. A lot of us feel super victimized. I was so good at being a victim for so freaking long, you know? It's like
Yep, yep.
it was and then once I realized like, oh my God, my own victimization story narrative is actually what's keeping me in my suffering. You
I
know?
relate to that. It's like, even though we are obviously brilliant therapists, we are also humans
Yeah.
first and foremost. And, I think it's important for people to hear that too. It's like we all have blind spots. We all sometimes need help waking up to our patterns and seeing like I had a life coach tell me, like, stop fighting for your limitations. I was like,
Yeah. Oh, I love
I
that
was like
line.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God." Like, yeah, it really stuck with me.
Right. No, it's true. And I
Yeah.
well, I was a social worker in the inner city in the beginning of my career. And I think I was so in this advocacy mindset for victims. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
they're victims, they're victims. And those kids had been through some really horrible things. And so I just had this alignment to victims
Yes.
that came from a good
Yes.
place, but then it was showing up in my own life.
I
That
think
was
that's a thing in our field. I think
yeah,
there's alignment with victimhood
yeah,
in general. Yeah.
right.
So I appreciate you naming that.
Yeah, yeah. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily bad, but it can
It's
be
not all
because
bad. Right. Yeah.
right, can be poisoning your own well and you don't even
Exactly.
realize it.
Yep.
And so when I first learned EFT tapping, it was
Mhm.
literally just because I got really behind in my continuing education, um, credits.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is
That's
actually this is
this is
actually what
because I
happened.
was gonna ask you, how did you come to this work? That is
Yep,
a hilarious
that is
answer.
that is what happened. Yep, I left the agency I'd been with. I went out on my own into, doing private practice training and stuff, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, I forgot that I have
Yeah.
to get my own CEUs now." So I I was thinking EMDR possibly or
Mhm.
EFT. I knew I wanted to do mind body. I had
Okay.
already
Okay.
started to see that, okay, there's a missing link here with just regular cognitive behavioral therapy
Agree.
that
Yeah.
doesn't always get to the meat of everything, right?
Mhm.
And I had all these clients who could get to the insight, have this wonderful insight, and still not change.
Okay.
And so I wanted to find a tool to help really bring about that change once they
Mhm.
already had the insight. And so I just looked up trainings in the Midwest for EMDR and EFT, and the EFT
Mhm.
one was in the Chicago area at the right time. It was like in the next couple of
Nice.
months. And I was like, okay, EFT is the
I
winner.
love that. Did I tell you I'm from Chicago?
No.
I'm from Chicago. I lived there till I was 40, and then I did a
Oh,
year in
really?
Puerto Rico, and now I'm in, St. Pete, Florida. But yeah, so I'm
Oh, nice.
from Darien originally, and I lived in the
Okay.
city for like 16 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I actually moved here as an adult I came here for grad school in
Oh,
98.
cool.
Yeah, I
Okay.
went to Loyola downtown.
I
So,
went to Loyola.
oh, really? Oh, that's so
Yeah.
funny. We probably had some of the same professors.
That's so funny. But you did social work, you said?
Oh, yeah, I did
I did
social.
counseling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so funny. We went to the
Yeah.
same grad school.
Yeah. That's
Small world.
funny.
Um, but yeah, I think everything you're saying is so true. It's just so true and important. And, that's why working with a coach, working with a therapist is so important. It's why I still do it, because as much as I have like a million tools and I can manage my emotions and I can hold the space for uncomfortable emotions, and I feel really like I'm walking the walk in those ways,
Mhm.
I'm always going to have blind spots, and
Always.
like having other people to be able to be like, "Hey, do you realize you're doing this pattern?" And
Yes.
sometimes I'm like, "Oh, no, I didn't. No, I did not."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just incredibly
Exactly.
helpful for us to kind of keep waking up and
Right.
feeling healthier. So,
Right. Right. And I work with an EFT tapping practitioner
oh,
on
cool.
the regular myself for it. And
Mm-hmm.
it is funny that because exactly what you're saying, yesterday we were working together and something came up, something like really negative, and I don't even remember now what it is, but and he goes, "Oh, good," and then he goes, "Oh, sorry." I started laughing because I said, "No, I do that with my clients
I
too."
know. I feel that inside sometimes with
Right?
my
It's
clients. We're
like,
like, "Oh, we got a juicy nugget.
we
We're
got the good
healing."
one. We got the right? That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's the
Yeah.
the EFT founder calls it, I think he called it like garbage to gold or something, right? So
I like that.
it's like our biggest wounds, like your biggest suffering points,
Mhm.
like that example, the woman getting ghosted, that was actually the path she needed to go through in
Mhm.
order to get to the point of being able to have an intimate relationship, to have
Yeah.
someone really love and adore her because she needed to go through that garbage to get to the gold.
Okay. Okay. I
And
like it.
yeah. So,
Okay.
back to what we're starting to talk about with the
Yeah.
EFT tapping. So basically what you do is you're going to tap through, there's 9 different points in
Yeah,
the
let's do
body
it. I'll take my glasses
that
off
we
because I
use.
know I need my eyebrows.
Okay. And I should just back up for a second and say what's happening, what we know now from the research of blood and saliva tests, EEGs, all this good stuff is that
Hmm.
when you stimulate these particular acupressure points, it sends your body into a parasympathetic nervous state, which is a calming
Mm.
state, a relaxation response.
Mhm.
And most of us, run around in sort of like high drive beta brainwave, go, go,
Yes.
go. And
Yes.
when you stimulate these particular points, and people ask me all the time, well, could it just be any points or is it just how I'm thinking about it? No, it is definitely these points. They've
Okay.
researched comparing, right? These points lead to people to move very quickly into an alpha brainwave state, which is the hypnotic state or the state you meditate or shavasana and yoga, that
Mhm.
relaxed
Mhm.
state, or maybe a lot of us just the state you get in right before you go to bed.
Yep.
Um, and it also lowers your stress hormone
I
production,
love that.
your cortisol production, and all of this. So, what we believe is happening psychologically is that when you pair a heightened emotion, that's why I'm saying we
Mhm.
have to feel it, to feel to heal.
Mhm.
Right? When you pair a heightened emotion with tapping on these points, your brain cannot stay in heightened emotion
Mhm.
stress mode while these points are being tapped on
Yep.
for very
Yep.
long. It's an on-off switch, and eventually the tapping will turn the switch off.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the thing you were thinking about before, there was a neural pathway that connected that stressful thing to your mid and hindbrain, to your amygdala, your fight or flight response. Now, because it got switched off, it was forced to create a new neural pathway to our frontal lobe, which is our logic and judgment,
Mm.
reasoning part of our brain.
Mhm.
So, for instance, you can take a phobia or a traumatic memory and you can tap through it. And now you will no longer be afraid of the thing
Wow.
because the connection is not getting you into fight or flight.
Okay.
Or with like a traumatic memory, let's say you ever see someone talking about a car accident, right? You can see in their body language they go into fight or flight. They go, and then the headlights
Yeah.
came, and right, they get tense, their eyes bug out, they lean forward.
Yep.
They're in fight or flight. Our brains don't
Mhm.
know the difference between our current reality and our imagination reality biochemically, right?
That
When
is
we think
interesting.
about a trauma,
Mhm.
bunch of stress hormones dump into our blood.
Yeah.
We know there's been tons of research, right? So
Okay.
when you start tapping on a trauma, what happens is because you create this new neural pathway to your frontal lobe, you now remember it, but you don't go into fight or flight when thinking
Okay.
about it anymore. And it seems to be permanent.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, and it is interesting because I'm thinking like how, and I'm happy to be a guinea pig and apply this to my dating life. But I've been talking to lots of people lately who, are single and like late 30s, early 40s, and just kind of like, hey, yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of over the apps, or, I'm just kind of taking a break and dating myself, or, and I think there's a lot of kind of like discouraged, like defeated energy. And, I relate to some of that too. Like,
Yeah.
um, I go out and I meet people just in general. I'm a pretty social person. I like kind of going to different types of events, and I like the idea of community. That's something that's really important to me. Um, but yeah, sometimes there's that like defeated feeling
Yeah.
of how do we work through this? So can we do some
Yeah.
tapping around that
Yeah.
feeling?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. Let's do it. Okay.
Okay.
So you always start with tapping, which is tuning in to the feeling. And you do want to pick one. Remember the table and
Okay.
legs. So we just want to pick one leg. So, if the problem is like, I'm not
One
satisfied with my
leg.
dating life,
Okay.
this leg we're going to work on today
Okay.
is feeling defeated.
Yeah. Okay.
because you got to clear that energy, right? Because
Yes. I love the idea of clearing energy. I'm
yeah,
already having fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because if you're feeling defeated, self-fulfilling prophecy or law of attraction, whatever we want to call it,
Yeah.
is going to give you more defeating experiences. That's what happens.
100%.
That's what
Yes.
happens. What we feel gets mirrored back to us.
Oh my
So we got
gosh.
to clear that
Okay.
feeling to move into a different place to have a different experience come in.
Okay.
So, tuning into that defeated feeling in your
Mhm.
body, just notice it. On a
Mhm.
scale of 1 to 10, how strong would you say it is?
Maybe just like a 3 or 4.
Okay. Let's juice it up a little bit.
Okay. Gotta get real
Um,
sad.
yeah, because we
Okay. But I feel it, yeah, I feel like in the chest area.
feel in the chest area. Okay,
Mhm.
and tell me, describe it. Does it feel like pressure, heaviness? Like, what's the
It feels vulnerable. It feels kind of like a light fluttery, but then also there's like an angsty vibe that goes with it too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a little bit
And
more dense.
is there like a recent experience? So we say for results to be terrific, you need to be specific. Is
Mhm,
there a
mhm,
recent experience that you can tune into? You don't even have to talk about it.
mhm.
That sort of exemplifies that angsty, defeated feeling.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Now on a scale 1 to 10, how does that feel?
Yeah, maybe more like 6, 7 now.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So again, I'm going to say what my mentor said yesterday. Perfect. We got it. We got to raise it up to bring it down.
Great, great.
Okay, so you're going to start by tapping on the side of your hands. You're going to take your fingertips and tap on the fleshy side of your hand under the knuckle of your pinky finger.
Mhm. I love that you're describing this so specifically for the listeners. Thank you. Don't do this if you're driving.
Unless you have a self-driving car, I
Yeah,
suppose.
right.
Um, okay, so you're going to tap right there.
Mhm.
In this point, some people refer to as side of the hand or karate chop. It is the point that we start with, and we say a setup statement, and
Okay.
we're going to say it 3 times, maybe slight variations on it. But what the setup statement is it's combining the problem with some kind of statement of acceptance or understanding.
Okay.
And that's because our brains don't really like it when we just try to force it into what was that bulldozing energy, right? When we just try
Yes,
to force
yes.
change. Forcing change is not good.
Okay.
Sometimes what we actually have to do is just to accept ourselves exactly as we are before we can change. It's kind of the
Okay.
ultimate paradox of mental health, in my opinion.
I
And
love that though. I think
yeah,
I spent a lot of years being Buddhist, so that vibes with me.
okay, there you go. And here's the thing. What I've really come to realize, sort of a nuanced thing that I have learned just in my experience with clients, is that you have to accept the feeling that you don't want to accept in
Yes.
order to release it.
This also fits with IFS. It's like you have to befriend all the parts that you're trying
Yeah,
to heal, even if they're
yeah,
making your life miserable. Yeah.
yeah, totally. I had an
Yep.
IFS therapist for a long
Oh,
time.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's great work. Okay, so we're going to start on the side of the hand, just
Yep.
tapping. It doesn't matter which hand. People ask me that all the time. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And just repeat after me
Okay.
in this echo back process and just say, even though I have this dread about my dating life
Even though I have this dread about my dating life
and I feel this angst feeling in my chest
and I feel this angst feeling in my chest
when I think about it,
when I think about it,
I accept that I have this angst feeling.
I accept that I have this angst feeling.
And even though I don't want to have dread and angst,
And even though I don't want to have dread and angst,
I don't want to feel that way about my dating life.
I don't want to feel that way about my dating life.
The fact is, I do.
The fact is, I do.
It's just there.
It's just there.
And so I'm going to accept that it's there.
And so I'm going to accept that it's there.
And even though I don't want to feel all this dread and angst,
And even though I don't want to feel all this dread and angst,
I do feel it.
I do feel it.
And I love and honor myself
And I love and honor myself
and all my feelings.
and all my feelings.
So I'm going to allow myself
So I'm going to allow myself
to accept and honor this dread and angst.
to accept and honor this dread and angst.
I'm open to learning what it has to teach me.
I'm open to learning what it has to teach me.
Okay, now go to the eyebrow point, which is
Mhm.
right at the top of the where the bridge of the nose and the inner eyebrow and the nose, top of the nose meet. Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
And we're
I
doing
should
it.
get
We're
that.
tapping with both hands now. Yeah.
Yes, both hands. You
Okay.
can just do one, but yeah,
Okay.
people do too. So both
Okay.
hands, the inner corner of the eyebrow, and just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
Now go to the side of the eye, outside the eye, not quite the temple or the bony part.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
I think I've always been doing temple. That's good to know.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, you got it perfect now.
Okay.
And then just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
Now go under the eye, right under the pupil on the bony ridge,
Okay.
and just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
I feel it in my chest.
Feel it in my chest.
Now go under the nose where the upper lip and nose meet, and
Okay.
just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
And then next go into the chin crease and
Uh-huh.
just say this dread and angst
This dread and angst
about my dating life.
about my dating life.
I feel it in my chest.
I feel it in my chest.
Okay, the next point, we call it the collarbone point, but it's actually below the bone. So you go to the hollow in your neck,
Mm-hmm.
go down an inch and over about 2.
Okay.
And there's little dents there,
Mm-hmm.
and just tap there.
Okay.
And if you want to do it the one-handed way, you can do a thumb and fingers with one hand, both hands.
Two's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
Ooh, and I love that you just sighed there. We're going to talk
I
about
know.
that.
I'm feeling the letting go energy.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah.
Now, next is under the arm, under the armpit on the side of the ribs. For women,
Mhm.
kind of like where your bra strap would be, but just for
Okay.
everyone else, it's like 2 inches below your armpit.
Okay.
And just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
I feel it in my chest.
I feel it in my chest.
Okay, the last point is just on the crown of the head, top of the head, and just say this dread and angst about my dating life.
This dread and angst about my dating life.
I feel it in my chest.
I feel it in my chest.
And I choose to release it
And I choose to release it
as much as possible,
as much as possible,
safely now.
safely now.
Okay, and then just pause and take a deep breath. Okay, and go ahead and tune in to that dread and angst. And what is your number now?
It feels like softened. It's like a different energy now.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I would say back down to like a 3-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the rule of thumb is you want to get under a 5,
Okay, cool.
and 3 or less is really the ideal
Okay.
because it tends to kind of unwind itself after that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But I want to say a caveat because
Mhm.
especially if listeners were just following along,
Mhm.
sometimes what can happen is as much as EFT tapping can clear away emotions, it can also stir the pot before it does.
Okay.
So some people will tap one round like that and they'll start crying. They'll feel much more feeling, and they might get even in touch with like a slightly different feeling. Like if you're tapping on your resentment or anger about dating apps sucking, then you might suddenly feel sad about being lonely, right? So that is very normal. I just want to, I taught a class recently and I had like 2 people in tears after round 1. So, yeah, so it's very normal, but the key is to keep tapping, because if you don't, what you've just done is you've
Oh,
re-traumatized your brain, and
okay.
you're kind of stuck in fight or flight. So you just got to keep tapping, just go through the points. It honestly doesn't really matter what you're saying when you're feeling the emotion,
Okay, interesting.
because remember, we're just trying to pair the calming response of the stimulating these acupressure points with the emotion. So if you're in the emotion, you don't need to say a word. You're just
Interesting.
doing that,
Okay.
trying to flip that switch to the relaxation response.
Okay.
What flips the switch is stimulating those acupressure points with the tapping.
Okay. I have to say, I'm a big believer in acupressure points in general. I did this unrelated to what we're talking about, but related to the acupuncture points. I did this NAET allergy
love
like
that.
acupressure. You've done that
Yeah,
too?
yeah,
My
I
God,
my
Allison.
son's, cat allergy. I
But it
know.
was like life changing for me. There was like 50 foods I couldn't eat. And I
Yes,
did this for about 9 months or so and was really committed to it. And I was like, oh my God, I have a life again. So
it's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I had tried so much and spent like tens of thousands of dollars trying to like heal my gut and stuff. And not that it's perfect now, but it's like I can have a normal life. So
yeah,
yeah, so it really works because I'm sure there's some people listening that are like, I don't know about this tapping stuff,
right, right.
but it works.
It does work, and there's lots of research now, they've done a lot of science. They've literally done
Mhm.
all these studies on people, pre and post, and they took blood samples of a room full of people, did tapping, and then they took blood samples again, and they found this 24% reduction in cortisol production from just that one session
Wow.
on average. And it was the funny story is that the guy who was head of the study, this Dawson Church, the psychologist Dawson Church who trained me,
Mhm.
he was telling us this inside story was that the lab was really late getting the results back and he needed to present them at a conference and he was freaking
Oh
out.
gosh.
And finally the lab people, delivered it and they were like, listen, sorry, but we reran it 3 times because we've never seen this much of a drop in cortisol production before. So we thought for sure
Really?
there was something off in our testing. And they were like, but we ran it three
My
times
God,
and
that's
got the same result.
wild.
I know. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. And I remember when I first learned this, I had this weird synchronistic thing happen where was already trained maybe 2 years in. And I chose this to go on this yoga retreat
Mhm.
in Italy. It was amazing.
Nice.
After my divorce, that was my divorce present to
Okay, love that.
and as I'm getting there, like a week before I get there, they send out a newsletter and they're like, welcome to your retreat. Next week, we're excited to meet you. We are energy psychologists who do EFT tapping.
What?
And I was like, wait. So, the guy picked me up, the owner picked me up from the train station or whatever. And we're driving up to the retreat and we're talking. And I said, yeah, so I just struggle. Like, how do you get people to like believe in it? That's what I'm really
Yeah.
struggling with. He goes, I don't I don't understand I don't understand the question. They just do it and it works. And then they're like, oh, it works.
Right, there's no convincing process.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
It's
I like
really
that.
yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, I've
Yeah.
cleared people's phobias in 10 minutes
Oh
and
my
just like,
God.
and like on an airplane, people are freaking out and I'll tap
Yeah.
them and they'll be like, wait, what is this thing? This really
Right.
I feel
Right.
totally different now. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really amazing. It's really, really amazing tool.
I love that. So, tell us a little bit more. If people are like, okay, Allison, I'm intrigued. If they're like wanting to apply this to their dating life, especially if they are,
Yeah.
a midlife woman, tell us about the Date Like a Goddess program.
Yeah. So I designed an 8-week online course that
Hmm.
is based on the book I wrote. And the
Okay.
way I wrote the book is each chapter is kind of a lesson in something that's sort of a common dating pitfall,
Perfect.
right? And then at the end of the chapter, I have a tapping script so you can
Mm,
experience what it's like to tap on. So, for example,
okay.
I know we talked briefly about the like, how do you remove the welcome assholes sign on your head?
Yes.
A lot of us have experienced.
Hmm.
So again, that's what's the internal belief that is attracting in assholes? What's the internal belief that is making your reticular activating system see assholes and be like, ooh, I like that guy,
Right.
right?
Right.
And overlook the nice guy.
Right.
So when you start to really figure out, okay, what is going on inside of me? What are my beliefs? What are my limiting beliefs that I'm
Hmm.
holding to that are producing this reality to show up again and again?
Hmm.
And what I realized after I put the book out was that the tapping scripts gave people a little taste and they could start to see,
Yeah.
okay, I knew someone, I had an advanced reader who read the book and she said that the very next week, and she did the tapping. By the way, if you just
Hmm.
read the book and don't do the tapping, you're not going to nearly get as much. So she read the book, she did the tapping, and then the next week she had 5 dates, and she walked into her therapist's office and said, "Oh my God, I have 5 days. I don't know which guy to pick," and blah blah blah. And her therapist said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold up. For months you've been coming into my office telling me you're never going to find a good guy now that you're in your 50s.
Right.
There's no good guys left.
Right.
what happened inside of a week that you got 5 dates? And she stopped and she thought about it and she said, well, I actually read this book and I did this tapping thing. And
Wow.
all of a sudden, I started like connecting with more guys online. I met a guy in my yoga class. I met a guy at Starbucks,
Oh
like
my God.
because she became magnetic. See, she became
I love that.
magnetic
I love
for
that.
drawing it in. Now, the tale went on to that all was, well and good for like a month or two. But
Mhm.
then she started self sabotaging because her self concept was, I'm not good enough
Okay.
in a lot of ways, right?
Mhm.
And she started self sabotaging. She sabotaged those relationships. She ghosted a few of those relationships. And then she went back to this person that she had dated before that was not a good partner
Okay.
for her.
Okay.
And it occurred to me, okay, I need to do more here. And so that's
Yeah.
where I created this companion online course that goes deeper. We have weekly group tapping calls. I do
Oh,
one on
cool.
one deep healing tapping with the women in the program. And I really take you, I show you how to use those subliminal recordings that we talked about.
Mhm.
And I've been trained with Joe Dispenza's work. So we go deep into that and
Nice.
altering self concept and creating your own new reality and things like that. So the course really is for someone who is feeling on the precipice, like ready to go, that
Yeah.
acknowledges, yes, a lot of this is internal work that I need to do,
Yep.
and I'm ready to do the work. This is what I want for myself. Because it's not easy, right? I mean, it's not easy
It's not easy.
to go and dig up the garbage to turn it into
No.
gold, right?
And I don't think it's a great idea to try and do it by yourself, if you don't have training on these things. And even if you
Right.
do, like we said, we have our own coaches or
Yeah,
therapists too. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's always work to be done. But if you are really ready to commit to something, this 8-week
Mhm.
program, I promise you're going to come out on the other side of 8 weeks like feeling really like a different person, like a
Yeah.
goddess. It brings
Yeah.
out your inner confidence. And when you walk around the world saying there's no good guys left out there, that's what, especially
Mhm.
my population with like midlife women, like that's what I hear. But I'm sure there's a lot of people, even midlife other people, or even I hear it even in like people in their 20s and stuff now. It's like
Oh, yeah.
there's nobody good out there. Everybody's
Yes.
assholes.
Which
Everybody's
is
everybody's
really a
bad.
ridiculous statement when you think about
Right.
it,
Right.
and I know I sometimes can fall into that one too, like,
Yeah.
why is it so hard to find someone who just meets these basic criteria?
Right.
But it's
Exactly.
like, of course there's gonna be, good guys out there, good people of all genders out there. It's like, you're out there,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. There's
Hopefully
eight
you feel like
billion
you're good.
people, right? There's 8 billion people on this planet. So like
Right.
it's bound to be, but when
Yeah.
your reticular activating system is set up to see no good guys or no good partners or whatever,
Yeah.
what you're going to keep seeing.
I know.
So you have to do the work to shift that,
Yeah.
to believe that you are worthy,
Yep.
and to really, I think the number one thing, if people take away nothing else from this podcast, I want them to take away this. Don't fall victim to the scarcity mindset,
Okay.
because that just keeps you in fear.
Yes.
And if you're in
100%.
fear, you are not going to attract in a healthy partner, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, you're just going to be suffering. You're just going to be
Yeah.
miserable.
Right.
So don't fall into that mindset of how am I ever going to meet someone? Where am I ever going to meet someone?
Mhm.
I don't know. For some of your listeners might be familiar with Mama Gina. Are you familiar? You must be familiar with Mama
I'm
Gina.
familiar with Mama Gina. I don't know that my listeners would be. Probably
Okay.
most of them know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she does a lot of like, I don't know, what would you call sex positive, like
Yeah, for
practice.
sure. Yeah, sex
Um,
education. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's awesome. And she has this really great energy. And she tells a great story about how she met her current partner, that she was literally like
Mm.
on the phone with a girlfriend, feeling frustrated, feeling down about her dating life. And she was like, what do you think? How do you think I'm ever going to meet a guy? You think he's just going to ring my doorbell and suddenly show up? And then
Yeah.
her doorbell rang. I shit you not. Her doorbell rang
It's too crazy.
in that conversation, and there's a guy at the door, this guy Peter, and, and they meet, and that's her partner.
Oh
That's
my
her life
god.
partner.
Now
I
I
know.
wanna know, why was he there? Was he like a neighbor or was he like a
I
repairman?
can't remember what the connection was that like brought him over. There was something.
Yeah.
He was
I'm
there
gonna
for
have to
something.
have her on now
Like,
too.
I know. Right? Yeah. So I just love that story. I was like, wow. And honestly, I kind of had a similar experience myself in a way.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because when I was writing the book,
Yeah.
I was in a relationship,
Okay.
and it was a good relationship for the most part. Like he was a
Okay.
great boyfriend. I've been single since my divorce. I've been single 8 years, and
Mhm.
I continually up leveled the
Oh, I
guys that
like
I
that.
was bringing in,
Okay.
and it was like, okay, like this guy came, I started, first of all, meeting really nice guys. I was like, wow,
Like,
dating has
what is this
actually
experience?
restored my faith in men, because there are
Yeah.
nice, there are faithful, there are loving guys. A lot of them had
Mhm.
been maybe like betrayed by their partner, and that
Mhm.
was why they were single. So don't trick yourself into thinking like, oh, only, rats are out there or whatever, right?
Right, right, not true.
So yeah. And so I started, um, just kind of having these relationships that I was like, okay, this is better. This is getting closer, but it's not quite.
Okay.
And then I actually did a week with Joe Dispenza, and I came back and I met someone right after that who was
Mm,
to that point, right? And I was super high vibe when I came back
I
from Joe
bet.
Dispenza. That's
Yeah.
that's what happens at those
Yeah.
retreats. And I meet this guy and we make this connection, and he is like the greatest boyfriend I've had to that point. Just loving and
Aw.
adoring and just wonderful, wonderful with my kids and all that. And but there were certain things that I knew this
Mhm.
wasn't a good long-term fit for me.
Okay.
I was like, this is great for right now. And I was very honest with him from the start. I said,
Okay.
look, like I like you, I enjoy you, we're having fun, but I don't see long term here.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty, we were like 10 years, he was 10 years younger than me. And there
Okay.
were some other things that were like problematic. And
Okay.
so I was like, I just don't see that.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, are you breaking up with me? I'm like, no, I'm just putting it out there. And he was like, well,
Yeah.
I don't care. That's fine. I still want to
Okay.
date you. Okay,
Cool.
fine.
Alright.
So that went on for about a year and a half. And when I was writing the book,
Mhm.
I had this kind of like wish for my reader.
Mhm.
Like, I wish that you don't settle out of fear. I
Aw.
wish that you know that you can have this epic, juicy love story
Mhm.
with this person who is not going to be perfect, because no one is, but they could be
Right.
perfect for you.
Yeah.
They could be your perfect match. And don't settle for less because you think you'll never find that. Just hold on to that faith, keep doing the work, and your
Yeah.
person will come. And I realized that I wasn't living the wish that I was offering.
Mm.
And so this is a little bit more spiritual, but I kind of had this moment. I was like working on my book in Italy. I have a thing with Italy. And I was like under the full moon, and I was like, please just God and my guides, like, give me a way out of this relationship where we can stay friends and he can stay a part of my kids' lives. And I swear
Mm.
to God, 2 weeks later, it was crazy. Like everything unraveled to make that happen. It
Wow.
was like, and then my book came out like 2 months after that. And
Uh-huh.
I'm on my book tour, and people were asking me, like, well, have you found love? Have you found love? And I was like, nope, but I have full faith that it's coming.
Yeah.
And then maybe 8 months after the book came out, I got a friend request on Facebook from somebody from my high school. I went to a very, very tiny high school in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Everybody knew everybody. I didn't know this guy because he was 5 grades ahead of me, but I knew his
Okay.
brother, and his
Yeah, yeah.
best friend dated my best friend's sister, and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Okay.
So we had this, we connected or whatever. And then we sort of started texting, messaging a little bit about like, did we know each other in high school? Didn't we? Blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't even sure. I was like, I don't even know if this guy's single or what this is, but whatever. It's Medfield. That's our town. And so we started talking, and then we just like hit it off more and more and more. And
Okay.
then it was like, maybe we should meet. Oh, because he lives in California and I live in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer, but and then it was like, okay, yeah, like let's just see. Let's just see what happens when we meet. And
Mhm.
then we did, and it was great. And then, we've just kind of fallen more and more for each other. And he
Aw.
is amazing. And he is so good to me, like even beyond the
Like,
last
next level, yeah.
next level. And it was really 3 to 4 months into this relationship that I went, oh my God, it happened for me. Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't go out seeking. I didn't, I tell my clients all
It's
the time,
true.
don't worry so much about your dating profile. Don't worry about changing your pictures or you're saying the right thing.
Right.
Take all that time and energy you're spending on your dating profile and your apps, put it into the work in yourself,
Yeah.
and your guy will find you. Your person will find you. You will become
Mhm.
magnetic for the right partner
Yeah.
the more work you do. You just have to keep that fear in check, which is very hard,
Yeah.
but you can tap on it.
You can
Even
tap
though
on
I'm
it.
afraid, there's no good people left out there, right? You can tap on it. But keep that fear in check, hold that faith, do the work, and your person will come to you. They will find you.
I love that. That's a beautiful ending note. Your person will find you. So we will link to your book and your website so people can access your program. Any other, parting words you want to leave people with?
I do always say that for podcast listeners, I have an
Mhm.
offer. You can go to, and I'll give you that specific link. There's a link
Okay.
that you can go to and download a copy of my book for free if they want an
Oh,
e-copy.
that's so nice.
Yeah, yeah. I like to give people just that tool. It's kind of a mission of my
Yeah.
life, but to help lonely people who are suffering out there to
I
get out that
know.
suffering, and EFT tapping is a great tool for that.
Oh,
So
that's so generous. Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you. So everyone make sure you go take advantage of that and check out Allison's stuff. And this was a great conversation. It was fun that there were some synchronicities there and it was delightful to have you. So thank you, Allison. Thanks everybody for listening and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to the Ask a Sex Therapist podcast. Got a question about spicing things up in the bedroom? Find the answers you're looking for in my Dirty Talk Guide, a free resource for my podcast listeners. Grab yours now at heathershannon.co/dirty talk. Again, that's heathershannon.co/dirty talk. And be sure to tell your partner or friends because everyone has something they would like to ask a sex therapist.